All right, today we're gonna present lab 4, where we're gonna learn how to create Boolean expressions and use the operators and, or, and not, and use built-in methods on strings such as isDigit, isAlpha that return Boolean type values. We start with a sample code where you are asked to create a program to ask user for input his or her initial, and an initial is valid if the length of the initial is less than 4. So we start with creating a variable which will be assigned to the value input by the user. So we give a meaningful message, say enter your initial. Okay. So now whatever user input will be stored in the variable initial here. And we create a new variable called isValid, right? This will be equals to the value of the Boolean expressions, which will return true if the length of the initial is less than 4. So we want to create a Boolean expressions such that length of initial is less than 4. So this will be true when initial contains less than 4 characters. And then we can, for example, print your initial is valid, and then we put whether it's true or false. Okay, so let's execute one time to give you an example. Say I type initials such as MTHA or MTH. Okay, and it says that your initial is valid, is true, because MTH contains only 3 letters, which is less than 4. So if we try a different example, so MTHD, and it's false because MTHD has 4 characters, and we want it to be, for it to be true, it has to be length of less than 4. Okay. Now let's extend this to the exercise code, where we ask if a different scenario where you are asked to create a program, ask user for input of his or her name, and a name is valid if the length of name is at least 2. Okay, so the same thing, you have a variable name which is equals to input, enter your name. So once this line is executed, it will wait for user input, and whatever user input will be stored as string in the variable called name. And then you're asked to create a Boolean expressions that will return true. Okay, so create a Boolean expressions that will return true if the length of name is at least 2. Okay, so it will be length of name. So instead of initial now is name. Instead of less than 4, it will be now greater equals to 2. Okay, now let's extend the previous sample code to check user input with conditions not just on the length, but also that it must contain only alphabets. Okay, so we're gonna copy the previous code with one more condition. Has only alphabet. Okay. Okay. Now we can use, so we're gonna do the hint. Use the built-in method called isAlpha, which will return true if string contains only alphabets. Okay, so it has only alphabet is equals to initial dot. So we apply the isAlpha method on the string initial. Okay, and this will be true if it has only alphabet, right? And then it's valid is equals to the length of initial less than 4. Change this to less than 4. Okay, and has only alphabet. Right, so we have 2 conditions here. One is that the length of the initial is less than 4, and the other one, it has only alphabet. So we join them using an operator here. Okay, so for example, if I create an initial that have less than 4 characters, such as MHT, okay, this is valid, so it's true. Now, if my initial is M01, it will be false, because for it to be true, it must contain only alphabets, but now it has digits. Okay. Now, here's your turn to do the exercise, which you're going to check user input, again on the conditions, or not just the length, but also on digit. So you ask user for a phone input of a phone number, and the phone number is valid if the length of the phone number is 10, and it must contain only digit. So here, gonna be the same as before. Okay, we're gonna do has only digits. Okay, so this is your to-do. So use, and I use the built-in method called isDigit, which will return true if it contains only digit. Okay, so we have has only digits is equals to, so use dot isDigit on the variable phone number. Okay, this is taking care of second condition. The first condition has length 10. This is equals to, again, to do. Okay, create Boolean expressions that return true if length of phone number is equal to 10. Okay, just to give you an example, if this is not less than 4, but is 4, the length of initial is exactly 4, I can create another variable, has length 4 is equals to, instead of length of initial less than 4, I will put equals to 4. This is to check equality, whether the initial has length is equals to 4. And this will be my variable, has length 4. Okay, so the same thing, you have as length 10, you will have length of phone number equals 10, and has only digit will be phone number dot is digit, and then you join the two expressions. Okay, use and to join has length and has only digits. Okay, now let's look at a different version of creating Boolean expressions involving numbers. So suppose you're given a scenario where each user is given an index number, and you are asked to create a program to ask user for his input of index number and whether the input is valid. The input is valid if the index or the user input is actually represent integers, and it's not that it's just integer, it's also an integer that is less than or equals to 86. Okay, so let's do that. So we're gonna ask for index. We ask user for input, enter your index. Okay, and then we have conditions such that the integer must be less than or equals to 86. So we have first, it must be check is integer. Okay, so here's need to be careful. We want to check that if it's an integer, we use isDigit to check whether it's numbers. Okay, so we're going to use index.isDigit. Okay, So this will be true if index is a string represent digits, all right? And second is that is integer less than or equal to less than or equals to 86, for example. Okay, so this we're gonna create a Boolean expressions such that index is less than 86. Now here we have to be careful. Remember, when you do comparisons, we want to make sure that these two are of the same type. 86 is of type int, but index is of type string. Okay, so you need to be able to convert it into a type int by using typecasting. Okay, so we convert string type index into int by using typecasting. Now we create a Boolean expressions that compare left-hand side, which is the integer of index less than 86. We're gonna print your input is valid, either it's true or false. Okay, so create is valid. So we need it's valid here. We join these two conditions using AND operator. So is int and is int less than 86, less than or equals to 86. So here it's not just less than, it's less than equals to 86. Okay, so this represents less than equals to. So for example, let's type. So it should be comma here. Okay, say I create a number such as 78, and this is valid, is true. If I create a number such as 100, now it's false because it's not less than equals to 86. If I create 86 itself is true. Now if I create something that is not a number, such as 4, okay, this is not a number, I get an error here. Okay, so this is an interesting error. It say that I cannot convert, I cannot do type conversion here with base with 4. So I cannot do int on 4. Okay, so int on 4 will give me an error. All right, good. So what we see is that we can't do straight away here because it gives me an error when the user input is actually not digit. So what it does is that before I do this, I should already make sure that it's a digit. Okay, so in this case, I would need to make sure that first it's a digit before I do that. So I'm gonna change this here. I first check whether it's a digit first. Okay, only when it's true that it's a digit, okay, then I do this part, whether the index, the integer conversion of index less than equals to 86. Okay, so let's try it again. So let's try say 4. It will give me immediately false. There is no issue because when using AND operator, when this is false, it will immediately return false. Okay, but earlier version is that when I first check whether this is true or false, and then the second variable I do a typecasting, even though the index might not be convertible to type int. So here is that I first compute index.isDigit. If it's true, then I will check the second condition. When both are true, this will be true. If isDigit return false, that means it's not a digit. I don't need to check the second condition anymore because when the first condition is false, its value will immediately return false without checking the second condition. Okay, good. So the same thing here. As an exercise, you're asked to create a program for user input of the number of tickets to buy, and the input is valid if it's an integer and it's an integer less than or equals to 5. Okay, so the same thing as before, we're going to do is valid is equals to first. We check create Boolean expressions. to check num ticket is digit. To create Boolean expressions using is digit on num tickets. Okay, so we'll do num tickets dot is digit. Okay, so if it is true, then only we check the second condition. So and void it and another Boolean expressions to check the integer representation of num ticket is less than or equal to 5. Okay, so it will be the same as before. We have num ticket dot is digit and int of num ticket is less than equals to 5. So again, it's important that you do integer typecasting after you do checking whether it's digit, because if it's not digit, then we can't do typecasting here. It will give us error. So and again, the and operator will first check whether the first condition is true or false. If it's true, it will continue to check the subsequent condition. If it is false, it will already return false. Okay. Now, next we're gonna look at how to create a second a similar conditions, except that we're not just checking whether it's an integer, we also check whether it is a positive integer. Okay, so here we're going to extend the previous code. Okay, so everything is the same, except that I have one more condition that it is a positive integer. All right, first, for it to be a positive integer means that, so a positive integer means it is greater than 0, right? So it will be the same as before. So first I check whether it's a digit before I do any type conversions. Otherwise, it will give me error. So I put the first condition, check whether it's digit, followed by and condition, and I check whether index as an integer, is it greater than 0? And then check whether the index as an integer is less than equals to 86. So here, let's give it a run, say 30, this will be true. And say 100, this will be false because it's not less than equals to 86. And if it gives me something that's such as minus 100, this will also give me false because it's not positive. Okay. Now, as exercise, you do the same thing. The input is valid if it is a positive integer and it's an integer less than or equals to 5. So basically, it will be the same as exercise 2 with one extra condition that the int of the number ticket must be greater than 0 to be input here. Okay. Now, let's look at the last exercise. So the last exercise is more involved. Create multiple conditions. So we have ask user to create a program for input year, month, days of user's birth date. So the input is valid if the year contains only 4 digits, the month contains 2 digits only, and must be either 01, 02, or all the way to 12. And day contains only 2 digits and must be either one of these values, 01, 02, all the way to 31. So we create a relaxed versions of the realistic verification or input of birthday, because, for example, April has only 30 days. So if a user input 04 as the month and 31 as day, we will still consider it as valid. So we can improve this program to deal with the cases where if this is 30 days, we shouldn't allow 31 as an input using if and else statement, which we will discuss next week. Okay, so here I have a variable called year, which is equals to user's input. where I ask user to enter year as 4 digits, and another variable month, where I ask user for input, where I ask user to enter month as 2 digits. Another variable called day. Again, it will be assigned to the user input string, which I ask user to enter it as 2 digits. Now, I'm gonna create Boolean expressions. Okay, so create Boolean expressions. Such that it will return true only if year contains only 4 digits. Okay, so this is something you need to think. So let's write down more formally. Okay, so for year to contain only 4 digits. So it's not just one condition, it's actually a combination of 2 conditions. First is that it must be of length 4. It must be of length 4. And that it is digit. So this is, okay. So to give you an example, for example, this is what I would do is that the length of year must be equals to 4. This is to check equality, okay? And that it is digit. So we're gonna use the is digit method. So it will be year dot is digit. So when apply on year, it check whether year is digit or not. It will be return true. It will return true if it's digit, okay? So its valid year will cover the conditions whether it contains 4 digits only. It's of length 4 and it contains only digit. Now for valid month, the same thing. Okay, similar. So for month to contain 2 digits only, and must be 0, 1 to 12. Okay, so it means that it must be of length 2. Okay, and it's digit. Okay, it is digit. And if you convert it into integer, so remember month is user input, so it's of type string. Okay, so if you do type conversion to int, so the integer representation of month is actually less than 12. So less than or equals to 12. And the int of month is greater than 0. Okay, so it must be within this range. This range means that it's between 1 and 12 inclusive, which means it must be less than or equals to 12 and greater than 0. Okay, so it would be, so this is for you to do, length of month must be equals to 2 and month is digit, and the end of month is less than or equals to 12. Equals to 12, and this is the rest for you to do. Just basically end of month is greater than 0. Okay, now is valid day, the same thing. Okay, so day to contain 2 digits only and must be within this range. Okay, so this you do it on your own. Okay, so it must be of length 2, it is digit, and so basically the same as before, except that int of day now is less than or equal to 31, and int of day is greater than 0. Okay, so this is something for you to do. And lastly, don't forget, its valid will be a combination of all of this. So it will be equals to its valid year and the rest for you to do. So it will be in its valid month and so on and so forth. and the rest of the two conditions, join by and operator. Okay. And that's all for today. Thank you.